You are listening to the Pleasant Spirit Podcast with your host, licensed massage therapist, Kyle Pleasant. Here, we will be discussing topics on health and wellness, as well as self-improvement, and his experiences as a legally blind massage therapist. And now, here's your host, Kyle.
Hello and welcome to the Pleasant Spirit Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Pleasant, licensed massage therapist. So today, again, I hope everybody is still enjoying their fall. And I know getting into the fall season, we also get into the holiday season as well. And with that, it can cause a lot of stress for some people. And I wanted to kind of take a moment to talk a little bit more about stress. I know I've had episodes before about dealing with stress. But one of the common things that seems to show up whenever we are stressed, or even, when we're just experiencing, a day that's rough, or if, even in good times, we're dealing with stuff. The thing is that, I've said before that there is no private good any more than there is any private aggravation. So we both have our good days and we have our bad days, and that is definitely okay. So definitely give yourself permission to have a good day or to have a bad day. It's normal, it's human, it's healthy. We're all going to have our ups and downs. And during those ups and downs, we also have our coping mechanisms. For some people, they cope with stress by, taking a sort of substance, medication, drugs, or alcohol. Some people deal with stress or situations by eating. Some people, have their other habits. But everyone, in some way, whether it's good or bad, copes in different ways. And the trick here is that we want to make sure we practice good self-care, and we take a moment to see how we are coping with our stress, or, with certain circumstances that come in our life. Are we holding in energy that we don't need, that's not serving us, that's not bringing us into peace? Or are we coping in a way that is going to move us forward to that peace or to some kind of resolution? And there's not necessarily a good or bad way to do those things, but we want to analyze what is going to bring us the most good. And like, say, for example, if we cope with our stress by eating, is the kind of food that we're eating bringing about energy to our bodies, or are the foods we eating, like junk food or fast food or whatever it is that food making us weaker? And so if we are using eating to cope with stress, it might not be a bad idea to consider eating something a little bit more healthy, or something that will, in the long run, make us feel better physically. And, some people cope, by exercising. And there's nothing wrong with, exercising and getting out and going for a walk. But sometimes people will exercise so much that they stress their body out even more. Because whenever you do exercise, any kind of aggressive exercise, you increase your cortisol level, which increases your inflammation in the body. And so if you're pushing your body through exercise a little bit too much because you're coping with something that you're not able to deal with, then that might be something you want to analyze as well. maybe, change up the type of exercise, or, find other ways to cope with that stress in addition to the exercise. Maybe a less aggressive type of exercise, such as yoga or meditation, are also good habits that you can incorporate into your daily regimen there. And of course, there are also some other tips that you can certainly do when you're dealing with stress. And again, I've talked about journaling before and writing some stuff down and kind of getting out of your head. Because the biggest part of depression and anxiety is that we live in our heads so much during these situations. We use those coping mechanisms to get out of our head. And so if you're drinking or exercising or eating or, some other deleterious activity, it's an attempt to get out of our head and to feel something different. And if we're writing or if we're meditating, we're making an attempt to get out of our heads. Practicing mindfulness is also a good activity, because as you go throughout your daily life, you're concentrating on your breath, or you're concentrating on the activity you're doing at the moment, like washing dishes or doing laundry or cleaning the house, Just cleaning the house can be a great activity, just to clean things up and to clear your mind, to clear, physically clear your space to help clear your mind. And it's also important to know that because everybody has different coping mechanisms, it's always a good idea not to judge others' coping mechanisms, because, they haven't learned to deal with their stress maybe in the same way that you have. Maybe they have different life experiences, or they have, they've been exposed to other things that might make them feel better. And so it's always a good idea, not to judge somebody on their coping mechanism, because we're all trying to get through certain issues and certain things in our lives. Also, during this coping time, remember, if you're holding on to any kind of unforgiveness or unresolved issues, then it might be time to let that go, which is, another way that we could, deal with certain activities. You could write your grievance down on a piece of paper and then set it free in some way. There's some cultures that will do that by lighting it on fire, or letting it go into a balloon, or even just burying it. And of course, the last part of that is that I've mentioned in another podcast, is to seek help in any way that you can. As I say, there's no, you're not a stranger to how you're feeling. Other people are feeling the same way. And it's always a good idea to maybe think about talking to somebody. There's no shame in asking for help, and seeking a therapist or a close friend just to be a sounding board for you is another great suggestion for learning to cope with different situations. So I hope that inspired somebody out there today, and I hope that we're all doing well and continuing to be blessed. And with that, be sure you like and subscribe, and to share this episode if it meant something to you. And if you have any questions, podcast at pleasantspirit.com, or you can use the voicemail feature there at the bottom if you have any other questions or suggestions. And with that, be well and have a pleasant day.
Thank you for listening to the Pleasant Spirit Podcast. We hope you found today's show informative. Please take a moment to write a review. And if you want to reach out or have show ideas, you can email at podcast@pleasantspirit.com. You can also visit his website at pleasantspirit.com. If you are in the Portland, Oregon area, you can schedule a massage or one of his coaching services at pleasanttouchmassage.com. See you next time, and always be well.